Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, July 14th. We are back with Delic Holdings, DELCF, over-the-counter DELC in Canada. And again, our goal is to bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside. Companies going after multi-billion-dollar market opportunities at a key inflection point in the growth with multiple catalysts in place. So Delic definitely meets those three. We checked off those three boxes, and we're going to kind of get into all the details, get an update. Matt, last week, you closed the acquisition of the ketamine clinics.
That is right. We closed our acquisition of ketamine infusion centers, known as KIC.
Okay.
So we now own a chain of ketamine infusion centers in California and Arizona.
And I'll tell you what's interesting. Here's this is actually an important milestone before we get into talk about all the numbers. But really, Delic is one of the few pure play psychedelic companies, that are generating real, legitimate revenues right now.
That's right. That's really, we really want to be known as a company that is not looking for 5 to 7 years down the future, but really building something for today. And, being that pipeline and that infrastructure play for all of those folks who are developing novel compounds. We see ourselves being the largest chain of clinics in America, obviously ketamine being the lead, but beyond that, we think all of these novel molecules that'll be pushed through FDA in the next couple of years will need, a place to go. And that's what we want to build, is a giant nationwide chain of clinics.
No, yeah, we're going to get into the whole, because you have a very interesting model. We've talked about it before. Like, maybe we'll get into it for again. We always have new people, so we'll recap it. But again, it's very important because essentially there is, with this acquisition, you're going to have, I think, you're going to have how many of these psychedelic clinics are you going to have in the next 12 months up and running?
I would say in the next 12 months, we should have somewhere between 15 and 25. So
15 and 25. And you got, I think, how many do you have right now and how many are opening?
So there are 2 in the deal, and we've announced another 2 beyond that. We'll be announcing their locations shortly. And then, we see a direct path to scaling this out across the country. So I'll be coming back to you regularly as we announce these things, because I think it's going to be really impressive. And, the business itself is pretty straight line from, getting people in the door to actually making revenue and earning money. And I think that's something that a lot of folks are kind of jumping into psychedelics looking for, just splashy news. We're really focusing on building legitimate long-term growth businesses. And I think that's just amazing.
And you kind of have this kind of 3-part, like this ecosystem. We're going to get into that ecosystem. But again, it's very interesting because you have this pure play, the psychedelic pure play ecosystem. The labs. I'm just going to call them psychedelic labs.
It's called Delic Labs. We've rebranded it.
No, not the labs. The clinics.
The clinics.
The clinics are going to be called Delic Labs?
No, the lab up in Canada has been rebranded.
The lab is Delic. Yeah. Yep. But the clinics, the psychedelic clinics, you're going to have basically 4 operating. Next few. You have 2. You're going to have probably 4 in a couple of months.
Yep.
Because I think that
is correct.
Okay, and the goal is to get to 25. Ideally in the next 18. And again, how much does each clinic generate? Can it generate?
Yeah, so it runs usually somewhere between $600 and $1 million, $600,000 and $1 million. And I like to think that with our ecosystem, we can push that up closer to $1 million, $1.2 million. Okay. And, just kind of owning our own, media properties, events, and really having that kind of direct connection with consumers allows us to help people kind of go on their journey. So we start, at Reality Sandwich. People can come in and learn more about psychedelics. They can come to our event, meet Delic, and really kind of interact with and feel it. And then they can go to our clinics and actually get psychedelic wellness. So, I think that's the thing that is really key is building that trust and respect and understanding with consumers that, this is something new. It's brand new, but it's also incredibly effective, and people are a little bit nervous and they're not really sure. And so it's just making it feel comfortable and safe, and feeling like there is an opportunity to help with your mental health. And that's just so important to us.
And you know what, though, it's interesting because you have this ecosystem, then your customers, it becomes very sticky because we're going to kind of dive into more about the ecosystem. But in terms of revenues, if you have 25 labs, let's say $1 million each per year, you could be at a 25 million run rate, this time next year.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of our plan, is to push for that.
And that could be worth. So again, the market is giving psychedelic stocks crazy valuations right now.
Yep.
And it's just getting started. I think we're still in the early stages, and there's nobody out there who's really generating any meaningful revenues here, right? So if you can show even 10 million, but if you're getting to 25 million plus, you can get a 20x multiple. So I mean, you would get like a 500 million valuation, and we've had plenty of companies, in our sort of live streams that have started at 50 million, they got to 300 million, market caps quickly. So there's a clear path for you here.
Yeah, I think it's super clear to me that just executing on our vision and our plan will get us to a place of really meaningful revenue, and a really meaningful cash flow, so that we're a sustainable long-term business. And I think what happens when you do that is you build a stock that is really valuable. So we see a direct line path with the work we're doing and the deals we're doing to get ourselves to a pretty substantial market cap, just following this kind of straight line progression and building. And we have really great team and a really great marketing side, and I think the ecosystem is just a really important part of this. It's having.
We're going to get into we're going to go into the ecosystem, but but the 500 million, essentially that would right now the market cap is what, is like 15 million.
Yeah, it depends on how you do the fully diluted, but somewhere in the $20-25 million range.
25. Okay, so there's a 20x built in right now. There's a 20x upside potential in the stock. All you got to do is get those 25 clinics open. The stock is going to be 20x from here. I mean, again, this is not investment advice. We're saying that based on what the market is. But that's just one aspect of the business. We've got to get into the whole ecosystem now. So the ecosystem, you have an events side, the media side of the business, which we talked about a little bit, and now you had some news. You're doing a big event in Las Vegas in November. Give us the whole media business.
Yeah,
side.
So I'll give you kind of the whole.
And your background, you were the High Times guy. You ran High Times magazine.
I was the owner and operator of High Times for many years, and ran the events business and the media business. So what I see is a similar progression, right? You have a gray or black market that is turning white. So you have this moment of people not really knowing what's trustworthy, what's good, and what's best. And so what we've done is over the last 2 years built up a really strong media presence. Reality Sandwich is the name of the website, and it has 400,000 or 500,000 people a month coming to it looking for information about psychedelics. Now we've launched Meet Delic. It's in Las Vegas, November 6th and 7th. It's going to be the world's largest psychedelic wellness conference. We have just a ton of incredible people. We have Jason Silva, who's a network host on National Geographic and a famous podcaster. We have Duncan Trussell, who's a comedian and has his show on Netflix 3 months ago that was at the top of the charts. We have, just a bunch of folks who are not known for psychedelics. They're known for mainstream kind of.
Are you gonna have Joe Rogan? Are you gonna have Joe Rogan there?
We're having his partner come out, Aubrey Marcus, who is his partner in On It, the supplement business.
Oh, right, the supplement. That's his big business.
So Aubrey Marcus is coming and keynoting the event. So he's very, very involved in that confluence of wellness and psychedelics. So that's really where we want to be, is like giving people that access to the confluence of wellness, a $4 trillion industry, and psychedelics, which is still just $1 billion industry. But we think as people understand that this is a component of overall wellness, the pie just gets so much bigger.
And
so
you're doing, it's okay. So this is November
6th and 7th in Las Vegas. It's at a place called Area 15. It's the world's largest interactive art exhibit. They built a $250 million psychedelic art installation in the middle of, Las Vegas.
It's right off the strip.
Right off the strip.
If I understand, it's basically people go, essentially they take pictures. It's like an Instagram place.
It is the most Instagrammable place. It's sold out every day because it's so Instagrammable. It's amazing. It's like Disney World for adults.
And it's all very psychedelic. I mean, I've seen pictures. It looks very
super psychedelic. And so we're taking over that space for 2 days and turning that into the world's largest psychedelic wellness conference. So it's a place for you to interact with both the art, the people. There's going to be an entire 2-day summit on business and psychedelics because obviously people are very interested in that. So we'll be announcing those panels next week. And, we also have the founder of Compass, the largest publicly traded psychedelics company, and his, the co-founders, husband and wife team, coming out and talking. And, I just think we're trying to bring together all of the different aspects of psychedelics in one place because it's as you go from black to gray to white, there's a bunch of these interesting new things that come out of bringing people together in one place. And since COVID, it's been difficult, but I think, people are coming back together again, and we want to really make it a gathering space. And by being at the center of that and the place that everyone comes to, we have a very strong competitive advantage for what we're doing because we now bring everyone together under our banner. And now people come, they see our best-in-class services, they see our clinics, they see our labs, and they're able to go and interact with those things. And, if they need psychedelic wellness, they can go to one of our clinics. If they need research and development, they can go to our labs up in Canada. And I really think that this is an important part of building a really strong ecosystem that keeps, it's like a pinwheel. You look at any of the larger businesses in tech and in most of these spaces, it really does create self-reinforcing.
They do actually, all the big tech companies, they do an annual event, like Apple. Everybody does a big event once a year to bring all the developers and all. It's very, very beneficial. So this makes a lot of sense for what you're doing. And of course, deal flow for other acquisitions you might be making.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting. Obviously, I can't.
Basically, it positions you as doing the conference positions you as the leader in the industry.
Exactly, and just like Allen and Company does their, the event that's happening right now, and now they're at the center of every media and tech deal just because of that. Right. I think having the mainline event that brings all these people together is really going to make it an incredible experience, right? And
I think a lot of people in our audience, they don't know about the Allen, but they've heard about TED, the TED Con. So you're like the TED conference of psychedelics.
Yeah, we're doing like TED Talks.
TED of psychedelics, basically.
Sure, yeah. I think that's part of this is just gathering knowledge and really incredible people. I'm super excited. There's a Dr. Carl Hart who wrote Drug Use for Grown-Ups, New York Times bestseller. He's coming. He's one of the most interesting people I've ever talked to. We just have what we really looked for were people who are incredibly interesting and can talk for an hour and you hang on their every word. You're not just listening to someone's double-spaced pitch that they're reading from their notes. You know what I mean? There's a big difference for us, and we're really trying to make it super engaging and fun. And so, I think it's just going to be in a really incredible way to bring people together and make this, just a bigger, better, more interesting kind of sector, right? And by being at the center of a sector, you get, as you said, tons of deal flow, tons of opportunity. And, that's really where we want to be, as we're an acquisitive company that's growing quickly, and we really want to keep pushing that. And I think, when you talk about what's possible, I think you're right. We have, just from our current businesses, millions of dollars in cash flow yearly. And I think just with the growth that we can push in and the way people are valuing revenue in the psychedelic space, I think we're going to be one of the, if not the biggest clinic operators in the country by the end of next year. And you'll see that valuation come from it.
Yeah, 25 clicks is, I mean, that's not like a huge amount even. That's not that, it shouldn't be
No,
that difficult to do. So
no, and
basically that would get the stock
the other
to
part that's really
$5.
interesting is I think you have to think about how many people need this service. So
Right.
I don't know if you saw the studies that came out last week about the increase in depression and suicidal ideation in the last year, and
It's off the charts.
it's like I've been talking about it, but there are hard numbers. It's like 4x where it was the year before, 5x. So there's now like 50 to 80 million people in this country who need our services, and one of these clinics can only work through about maybe 200 people a month. So there's just so much room for us to expand. When you ask, hey, how many of these can you do? It's not limitless, but there's a ton of room to expand, and there's a ton of room to really bring this in. And then that's just with ketamine infusions. Now, when you bring in psilocybin and MDMA, which we think is sometime late next year, it just expands exponentially from there, because you have, PTSD and depression and mental anguish and cancer treatment. And, there's so many things that I don't know if you saw the study that came out 2 days ago about psilocybin rebuilding neural pathways and neural connections. So you actually rebuild your brain. So what about that when I talk about wellness? Like, who doesn't want to rebuild their brain? Now, you're getting a little older, you're getting a little slower. Come on, Jack, you forgot that, right? You probably need to go in and get a mushroom treatment and rebuild.
Yeah, I do. I got to take some mushrooms. Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's kind of incredible, and that's what we see as a huge opportunity as we. You
already have. The whole psychedelic thing is. You brought it up. I mean, it's becoming a very mainstream. Like guys in Silicon Valley, they're doing the microdosing, right? You're talking the PTA moms in Tiburon and Mill Valley.
In Mill Valley, that's right. Getting their $1,000 microdose kits from White Rabbit, which I don't want to shout them out because they're not really a real business, but. There's companies like that popping up all over because they've decriminalized mushrooms in 25 jurisdictions. So people are just like, well, it seems like we should probably just start a little thing. And yeah, there's super high-end packaged goods that are going into, I've heard about this from people. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
And this is basically also the business that this is the other leg of your ecosystem is that you got the labs, you're going to be developing, consumer packaged goods, mushroom products, psychedelic products.
Exactly.
Okay.
And and I can really, since we've taken over Delic Labs, that acquisition closed a couple of weeks ago. We've rebranded as Delic Labs, and we've really pushed forward into this work, which I think is incredible. I'm so excited. We've got, mushroom vaporization, which is just such an interesting way to get quick onset, quick offset, and really, kind of develop novel IP that we can license off to folks in these states that are allowing, like Oregon, like California and Colorado probably will, like some of the Caribbean is. There's going to be places that leapfrog FDA approval and just say, hey, similar to cannabis 25 years ago, hey, you don't have time to wait 2 years for this to get pushed through, and you need this for your depression, you need this for your PTSD, you need this for whatever of the multiple different things psilocybin can help with. And so there's a lot of push to allow a natural substance like psilocybin through. And what does that do? That really makes people super responsive, and having. So there's this thing, right? If you look at magic mushrooms, they're kind of disgusting because they're a fungus that grows in usually some form of cow patty or some form.
When you think about it, the mushrooms, basically people associate mushrooms with shit. I mean, to be right.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to be classy about it, but yes, it grows in shit, literally. So what we think is that there's this huge opportunity to build novel products that don't require you to eat shit, right? So like if we're gonna have a product that is a packaged good that people will appreciate, you're gonna need to have things that think outside of the physical mushroom. So we're working on.
So basically, you're saying the physical mushroom is not going to be the thing that people are going to consume. They're not going to be into that. It's too it's a little too nasty.
Yeah,
They want something nice and clean. That's very,
exactly. Well, you look at cannabis now, and vapes and pre-rolls and edibles have sucked up like 70% of the market, right? And why is that? Flower is still beautiful, but people don't want to smell like weed. They don't want to roll a joint. They don't want to smoke weed. They want
it's kind of like, do you want to go to a steakhouse and get the steak, or do you want to butcher the cow? That's the difference. Or hunt it.
You want to go with a bow like Joe Rogan and hunt the thing and cut it down.
Right.
No, that's like 2% of 1%.
Right. You want it on a plate, nice and clean. You don't want to know how it happened. You want to just have it here.
Exactly. So I think there's just such, that part of this, and then also dosage, right? Because if you're just taking mushrooms, how do you know how much it is, how much of the active ingredient, what does it do to you? Whereas, a lot of this is microdosing, middle dosing, macro dosing. There's a lot of talk around how there's very different experiences in all three of those. So it's really about having an incredibly precise dosage model, so you don't have to think about it.
So it's going to be, the delivery is all going to be these packaged products. It's not going to be raw mushrooms.
I think those will still exist. Yeah, just like flower still exists for cannabis, but I think there's just a huge opportunity to build novel IP utilizing our.
Also, it's branding, differentiation. That's really.
Exactly, right.
Consistency, the whole
dosability. It allows people who would not be open to just eating a bag of mushrooms to feel like, okay, I can have this one mushroom vape. I can take 2 hits and I can be high for 35 minutes, process some of my stuff, and then be done for the night and be like, wow, that was amazing and revelatory, and I'm through. Versus having no idea what's going to happen and just eating a mushroom and just being, completely kind of stuck on whatever ride it gives you. And I think it's really about making it accessible, safe, and available to folks who are looking for this wellness in a way that's packaged well and clean and well thought out. And I think it's just really important for people.
Okay. And you have the Delic Labs, this acquisition you closed. So they're generating revenues right now. How much are they? What kind of numbers are they doing right now? I think we talked about it
over $1 million run rate for the year, and I see it growing every month. So really, really spectacular execution on the business there, and I love the team, and they're really doing a great job of expanding outwards and being that research organization that companies can outsource to. And I think it's just super important to have an incredibly efficacious group of scientists that you can go to and they can solve problems for you in the psychedelic space and in the cannabis space. And that's what they've made their name on, and it's a really growing business.
Okay. And those guys, so you're developing that vaporized psilocybin. And then the other part of the business, I think we talked about, which is interesting, is this clinical data that you're going to be able to get.
Yeah.
Not clinical, but basically data.
Yeah. So data. I wouldn't call it clinical data. I would call it consumer experience data, right?
To be sold to.
Right. Exactly. So we think there's a huge opportunity as we develop products to really go out and capture data through our consumer portal. So we own, as I said, 400,000 or 500,000 consumers a month coming through and looking at our websites, and hundreds of thousands on our emails. And so as we come up with and deploy products, we'll be able to put a front-facing kind of data collection setup on the site so people can utilize the products and then give feedback on how they work and how they affected them, and they're, really what it does for them. And what that does is collect, tens of thousands of consumer data points that are greater than any phase 3 clinical trial. Obviously, they're not strictly randomized, but there's such a preponderance of data and evidence that they can give people what amounts to a clinical trial level data. And we're able to own that and then package it with IP we own. So we think that's just got another little bump that we can do in the next year or two that really is very interesting.
Okay, and in case anybody doesn't know, can you just throw out some of the numbers that this type of business can generate? Like,
yeah, I've had some
licensing, royalties, all that stuff.
Conversations with folks in the pharmaceutical licensing world, and it's 30, 50, $100 million per instance, and they'll buy 3 instances, meaning they'll buy for this instance, for that instance. So basically saying, hey, we'll buy this for transdermal, for vaporization, and for pill form, because we think your data is strong and we want to own the IP that you've put together so that no one can come behind it. And we'll put it into phase 1 clinical trials, but we'll have all the data so we know we're not risking anything, because we see 80% efficacy, 72% efficacy. So now we know going into this that we have a blockbuster and it's worth licensing, because that's what these big pharmaceutical companies do. They don't do the early research anymore. They're just a buy kind of company. They're there to roll in. They're a bank for pharmaceuticals, right? So they look for stuff that cracks 50, 60% efficacy, because they know if they can get that, they'll be able to push it through FDA in the next couple of years. Okay.
So yeah, it's very exciting. Okay, so basically, bottom line is, it looks like there's we got a clear path to a $5 stock price. Assuming you get these 25 clinics open, it could even happen earlier. I mean, even if you get to 10 clinics, I think once you have 10 clinics, at that point, there's going to be that, what's the term? The Minsky moment? I don't know what they use that but there's going to be that moment people are going to say, oh shit, these guys are for real. And they're going to see, oh, if they got 10 clinics, they get to 25, plus they got the other stuff. And then, obviously the stock starts running ahead. That's the way these things happen. When do you think you can get to that 10 clinics?
I mean, I will be back here to announce it to you, and okay. I think it'll be hopefully sooner rather than later. So I'm super bullish that we'll be there fairly soon with what we have in our pipeline.
Okay, because you know how it works is the market always overshoots or undershoots. So either it's going to get either way ahead of itself, or it's going to like drop. Like right now, the stock is like really low. It's like it's kind of, people like assume like, oh, it's almost like they're assuming there's nothing there, right?
Yep.
Once you get 10 clinics, the market is going to extrapolate 100. I think when you get to 10 clinics, the stock would be probably $3, $4.
I think
it's going to overshoot.
If the market doesn't see that, then hopefully other people will, and they'll make a bunch of money as the market sees it, because it's a trailing game, right? So we'll get the clinics and then we'll start reporting the numbers, and then I think it'll shoot up because it's a really strong kind of business, right? You have a recurring revenue that keeps growing, and you have
scalable,
super scalable,
and,
like
you can crank these
not
out.
a ton of SG&A and corporate stuff. Once you get beyond like 8 or 9 clinics, you have a built-in team, and the scaling from there is just adding clinics, right? So it's just boots on the ground and spaces.
They want to see that. They want to see that kind of reproducible model, that kind of retail, sort of like the McDonald's, franchise model. You crank these out. So I think I may have interrupted you. When did you say you're going to have the 10 clinics?
I think, obviously, once again, I can't announce material non-public information without putting out a press release, but I think you'll be one of the first to hear it, and it will be fairly soon. So
okay. How soon? Next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? How soon, Matt?
I would say sometime in that frame line. I think your guess is fairly close. I just don't. Once again, I don't want to be the person who says something that pushes me outside of what I'm allowed to announce publicly. Right. Okay.
That's what we try to do here.
I know. Well, I can say we are getting there, and we will be on this show to announce it, and I think you'll be very, very happy with the results and how quickly we scale to those levels and then beyond. Really.
Okay, so it's in the pipeline at some point.
It's in the pipeline, and it's
okay. We'll leave it at that.
In that timeline that I think we can get there.
Okay, because I think 10 clinics that's the catalyst for a $3 price, because I think it's like people because they're going to see that, they say, okay, 10 clinics equals 10 million revenues. It's 100. At least 100 million market cap, right? That's like basically 10x from here.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling, is that this.
I think the stock would probably get to, like, to be conservative, $150 to $250 in that range if you have 10 clinics right now, because the market is a little weak right now. The overall micro cap market is a little weak today.
Yep.
So you'd be at in the $150 to $250 range with 10 clinics.
I think so too, and that's what we're working on pushing through. And I think we have the team, the strategy, and the pipeline to get it there fairly quickly. So I will be on to flog that announcement and make sure that everyone knows, because I think it's really an incredible opportunity for people to be part of this as it grows.
Okay, excellent. Matt, I think on that note, we'll wrap up on that and hopefully get you back with some other big news shortly.
Yeah, I will be back for sure.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Matt, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining our live stream, and we will see you all very soon on the next one.
Bye, Jack.
Thank you, Matt.